Well, I don't think we found our new paint. I know we did. So welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all having a great weekend. Now, as many of you know, I was gone all of last week at a training seminar down in Charleston, South Carolina at Alexiel's, and it is pronounced Alexiel. Yeah, I figured that one out, at their headquarters. And amazing experience. You know, the staff there, the company, everyone that I had some interaction with, these are people that have been in the industry for 30, 40 years, and they have probably forgotten more about paint than any of us will ever know in our lifetime. So, very good people to to get introduced to and to be working with when you're trying to get an understanding of a new product. So there were 4 staff members there, and then I was one of 17 students, I guess, whatever, if that's what you want to call it. So this was a larger group than what they had ever done in the past. Normally they try to restrict it between 12 to 15 people, but it was 17 this year, and it went very well. I mean, everything was well organized. Everything was just well organized. There were no problem people. It was just a great group of individuals trying to, all there for a similar kind of experience. So it was really cool. The staff was awesome. The other people that were there visiting, all awesome. So it was a very good time. Now, what was very interesting is that even though the size of the group was larger than normal, we were able to, in 4 days, I mean, we arrived there on Tuesday afternoon, and then we had basically orientation that evening, and then Wednesday, Thursday were pretty intense, basically 7 to 6 days, and then Friday then was a half day because everybody had to jump on a plane and get out of Dodge. But in 2 days, we were able to paint 2 boats, and each of us were able to put together, I think we each did 30 different test samples of different products. And while we were there, we basically had some hands-on time with every single one of the products that they make. And that was very interesting, just to kind of see how each of the products kind of play together with one another. So going from primer to fillers to top coats and that kind of thing. And I'm going to put together a video kind of highlighting everything. I was able to take a fair amount of video. Everything that was done kind of in the spraying area. I mean, when we did the plant tour, obviously there were signs all over the place, no phones, no cameras, I mean, nothing. So I'm sure there's some proprietary information and things like that they just don't want made public, which I totally understand. But I didn't have any problem getting video of the spraying process and some of the lectures that we saw. So hands-on time with each of the products. Now, something that I want to mention now, because this is going to come into play here in a minute, of the 17 people of us that were there, I'd say probably about half of the people there had never painted anything in their life, which I honestly I found a little bit surprising. But they were mostly there from larger companies, just more or less trying to get some information on the particular Alexiel brand and their products, as well as just trying to get a better feel or better understanding of the painting process and kind of how that game all works. Now, like I said, that's going to come into play here in a minute. So some of the things we were able to do, like I mentioned, we were able to do all these test samples, but we were also able to do paint 2 boats. One was done in metallic, and the other one was done by roll and tip. And so the one that I think is going to be of most interest to everybody here is going to be the roll and tip version. And I did get quite a bit of video of that. Now, what was kind of interesting is we were using these types of rollers. There were these little, and I don't have them with me here, but I'll when I put the bigger video together, I'll make sure to include all that. But the little cigar rollers, like little 3 or 4 inch rollers, well, cigar rollers. And so on this boat, it was a little 9-foot pram. And on one half of the hull, because basically we just painted from the gunnels all the way down to the keel, because the boat was flipped upside down. So on one half of the hull, it was done with roll and tip, and then the other half, just as a little bit of experiment, was just rolled. It was not tipped off, it was just rolled. And just because I wanted to see kind of what these new rollers were actually capable of doing. And honestly, I don't think it was the rollers that made the difference. I think it's just the paint. But basically, the takeaway from that is that, you know, granted, half of the people there had never painted anything, all right? And each person, you know, 17 of us trying to take a turn painting a 9-foot boat, you know, each person just got to do about a 12-inch strip, you know, from the keel up to the gunwale. And that was it, and then the next person came in. So you had half of us, or half of the group that had never painted anything, and then the other half that did have some paint experience. Now, you would think that when you're doing this process, that the individuals that really had no experience, the area that they painted wouldn't quite come out as nice as, say, like an area of someone that had some experience. So, all right, so the boats were painted basically at the end of each day, and then we left, came back the following morning, and absolutely incredible. Incredible. So the one half of the boat that was rolled and tipped, it was flawless. I mean, absolutely flawless. I would say that it was better than 90 to 95% of most spray jobs, and I'm talking spray jobs by people that know what they're doing. Very, very impressive, very impressive. Now, the other side of the boat that had just been rolled, that looked better than probably 80% of spray jobs by people that know what they're doing. I was impressed, to say the least. I mean, everybody there was. I mean, you came in the following morning after everything flowed out, and honestly, it was hard to tell which side was rolled and tipped versus which side was just rolled. So very, very promising. And again, by half of the people there had never painted anything. I mean, they were literally just rolling this stuff out like you'd be painting the walls in your house. And it flowed out and leveled, and it was pretty impressive. Now, one of the things I found interesting about this Alexio paint is that they only offer one base, and by that I'm talking about the color. So as opposed to All Grip, you have All Grip base and then All Craft base. So normally you'll take your base and then you mix in your catalyst and then your reducer and then go ahead and apply it. But Alexio only offers one base, and because of the way that they formulated it, regardless of how you apply it, rolling or spraying, you can wet sand it and buff it. And I've mentioned that before, but there are some other paint brands that I've also tried that claim that, and it didn't buff out it just didn't buff out very well, nor did it apply very well. But regardless, this paint, and we were able to do a little spot repair, and you have to work it a little bit more than you would do like with the buffer as far as like All Craft, but it buffed out to, it disappeared. You couldn't see it. And that's what you're looking for. So the big added bonus there is regardless of how you apply it, you rolling or spraying, doesn't matter. You can come back and repair it. Beautiful, beautiful characteristic of this paint. Now the other thing is just how forgiving this paint was when you were applying it. Now All Grip's a little finicky. All Grip is very finicky. I'll just be honest about that. With the Alexio, if you were a little heavy in one spot, a little light in the other, it just kind of flowed into itself and just worked out awesome. So very forgiving and easily repairable. Those were the two criteria that I have always been looking for in a paint, and I finally found it. So going forward, that is going to be the only paint that I'm going to be recommending for DIY applications, and it's also going to be the only two-part paint that I will be working with. So kudos, Alexio.
2 parts base, 1 part brushing converter, and 1 part of brushing reducer. If I don't say it when we're looking at that data sheet very soon, it says 2 to 1 to half, up to 2 to 1 to 1. In Florida, even right now, I would just go straight to the 2 to 1 to 1. You do reach too much reduction if you go too much. But remember, we got reducer flashing off out of here. We got reducer flashing off in the pan. And just like the old yacht enamels, we got to add a little reducer as we go. And when we start rolling this thing, when you guys are tipping off, I think we're going to try and roll one side and see if the bubbles just pop out. That's another little trick we're doing these days. The other side will also tip off to get rid of the bubbles. Okay. What we're going to do is we want to make sure it feels like vegetable oil. very creamy, very smooth. If we're just starting to get the slightest feel of attack, a little more reducer in the bucket, stir it, and then dump it in the pan. We don't want to have just reducer laying on the top, and because we'll pick that up and have one section with more reducer. The other thing is, when you mix 2 to 1 to 1, you'll notice the reducer wants to float on top a little bit. You'll stir it in, it'll float on top. Polyurethanes don't need an induction time, epoxies do, and that's on our list to define further. But you'll notice with brushing, the brushing reducer wants to float on top a little bit. So we'll mix it 2 to 1 to 1, go on, we'll stir it up, we'll put a rag over the top, we'll finish tacking it, check our tape, couple things, come back, we're ready to go, stir it again, a little more reducer, give it a splash, stir it up again, and that's what we'll do right now, a little splash. Wish we had a small can or a squirt bottle. If you're on a job, that's a good thing to have. And then we'll just freshen it up a little bit, and that keeps that real nice vegetable feel. I had a project up in Cocoa Beach recently. It was a boat owner and his wife, and I felt really sorry for them because they were trying to brush out flag blue out in the sun and the wind on like this 40-foot sailboat. I don't know what I get myself into sometimes, but I went up, and actually the boat owner next to him was a really nice guy, and we enlisted him to be the gopher and the mixer. And the wife really got it down very well. The husband, I think he was too stressed out with trying to get the things to flow. But the wife was actually the best one to tip off, because she was very meticulous around the fittings and so forth. And I just put the husband, I said, you're rolling. I don't want to see you get any more than about 2-3 widths away from where she's tipping it off. Because she's starting at the bottom, coming up, and then she starts at the top and just comes down. Every time she tips, she's taking the excess off on her brush, and they're just walking right along the boat. So let me tell you, as fast as that neighbor boat owner could get back and dump a little more solvent in the cup and come back and put it in his tray, constant. It was 6 minutes because it was hot, the sun, we had a hot surface we were going on, and we got it to come out okay. I mean, it had some brush strokes, but it was 10 times better than just what only 2 of them could do. But it took 4 of us to keep hopping to keep it going.
So what were you doing in that whole process?
Telling them to slow down, telling them to stay together, helping them with the roller when I saw them getting tired and needed water. I said, give me the roller, you go get us some water. Also, of course, they only had one section of scaffolding, so we had to keep moving the scaffolding over. Each section we were doing, it was sometimes you got to go back and do that a little bit.
He was rolling the scaffolding for him.
Yeah. Right. Sometimes you got to go back and do that a little bit. All right, we ready to go here?
And on that note, I think I'm going to wrap this video up so I can get back to work because there's an awful lot to get done. So as always, I just want to say thank you so much for all of your help and support. I truly, truly appreciate it. Again, I don't know that I can ever say this enough, but just want to make this clear that without everybody's help and support here, none of this would even be happening. So thank you so much for everything. And I will see you again very, very soon. Have a great rest of the weekend because you're going to be seeing this on Saturday. So I'll see you again soon. Thanks.